Ana viene de Ecuador. Ana viene desde Ecuador. Viajé de San José a Lima. Viajé desde San José hasta Lima. ¿Cuál es la diferencia? What is the difference between these four phrases? How do we know which one to use, de or desde, depending on different situations, and what is the difference in nuance? That is the topic of this video, which we're going to explain to you with a handful of examples in context, which will hopefully clarify it so that you can then go out and watch tons of examples of Spanish and have it start to sink in over time. So, the general nuance, the general kind of broad overview is that we use desde when we want to talk about or emphasize the duration, the distance, the movement between two places or 2 points in time. And we use de when we want to just talk about kind of the start point and the end point. So let's compare and contrast a few different examples of de and desde in context so that you can start to get a better idea of how to use them. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Connor and this is Breakthrough Spanish, where I help simplify Spanish so that you can speak confidently faster. The first situation we'll talk about is using de versus desde in the context of a time period. So I might say, el restaurante está abierto de lunes a viernes. The restaurant's open Monday to Friday. But I could also say, el restaurante esta semana está abierto desde el martes hasta el sábado. So we have esta semana está abierto desde el martes hasta el sábado compared to el restaurante está abierto normalmente de lunes a viernes. In one case, de lunes a viernes, that is the normal time frame that the restaurant's open. It's just normal, referring to those dates. It's between those two times. No particular emphasis. Restaurants open Monday to Friday. It's the most common way to express this situation, that something is open between these days or these hours. But if something has changed and there's something new about the situation, say it's Christmas and we're closed on Monday, we can say desde el martes hasta el sábado because we want to emphasize the fact that this particular week we have new opening hours that are different from our normal ones. So you're kind of putting a bit more emphasis on the fact that these are the days, not those. In another example, I might say, trabajo de 9 a 5. Trabajo de 9 a 5. I work from 9 to 5. Normally. Hoy trabajé desde las 6 hasta las 9 de la noche. So normally, trabajo de 9 a 5. Normally, I work 9 to 5. But today, hoy trabajé desde las 6 hasta las 9 de la noche. Here I'm emphasizing the fact that there's a bit of a difference compared to what the time frame that I normally work in. Normally I work 9 to 5. Here I'm working these hours, it's longer, and I want to emphasize the fact that I have a longer time frame that I'm working in. I'm emphasizing not just the start and the end point, but really the time in between, the duration of my work. We also have examples where we use de and desde to talk about distance. So de and desde both mean from in certain situations, and we can use them to say from this place to that place. So, voy a hacer un viaje de Argentina a Alaska. I'm going to do a trip from Argentina to Alaska. Voy a hacer un viaje de Argentina a Alaska. From here to there, point A to point B. But if I want to emphasize, say I'm talking about the way that I'm getting there. I'm telling someone about the Pan American Highway, la carretera panamericana. And I want to talk about the fact that, I want to tell them a little bit about it. La carretera panamericana se extiende desde Argentina, desde la Patagonia, Argentina, hasta Alaska. Desde la Patagonia hasta Alaska. So it's a really long highway. I want to emphasize the fact that it goes this whole distance, and that's what I'm traveling. So I'm not so much talking about the start point and the end point here. I'm more focused on the fact that there is this really long distance between the two, and this highway stretches, se extiende, this whole distance between the two places. We could also hear el hombre se cayó del techo versus el hombre se cayó desde el techo. In both cases, the man fell from the roof. del techo, desde el techo. But in one case, in del techo, el hombre se cayó del techo, the emphasis is a bit more on the fact that he fell from the roof, while desde el techo emphasizes the distance traveled, desde el techo hasta el suelo, from the roof to the ground. It's a bit more emphasis on how high it was, maybe. So I might be out pointing and saying, well, se cayó desde el techo. He fell all the way from the roof, rather than pointing out just se cayó del techo. Simply, he fell from the roof. Returning to the examples that you heard right at the beginning of the video, Ana viene de Ecuador versus Ana viene desde Ecuador. Based on what we've heard so far, what do you think the difference might be? Ana viene de Ecuador. You probably already know what that means. She's from Ecuador. Ana viene de Ecuador, her point of origin. Ana viene desde Ecuador. She's coming all the way from Ecuador. Para la boda, for the wedding. She's doing this long trip, and it's the emphasis on desde, in this case, emphasizes the distance traveled. The fact that for us, Ecuador is far away. Ella viene desde Ecuador para la boda. You could theoretically also use de Ecuador para la boda. That would also be correct. It just puts less emphasis on the distance traveled. And in the other example that we heard, viajé de San José a Lima versus desde San José hasta Lima. Viajé de San José a Lima. I traveled from San Jose to Lima. Simply, start point, end point, compared to viajé desde San José all the way to Lima. It was a long trip. It took me 15 hours to get there. Desde San José hasta Lima. I'm emphasizing the distance traveled. The differences and when to use de versus desde will start to make more sense to you over time. The more context you get, the more input, you will start to build more of a natural intuition for which of these two words to use when. What situations does it make more sense to use one versus the other? And again, in lots of situations, either one goes. There's not one that's correct or incorrect. It's just a preference or a question of what you want to emphasize. In the meantime, one thing that you can do to start to practice this is to create a few of your own practice sentences using these words, using de and desde. And you can leave those sentences in the comments and I'll be happy to give you feedback if you'd like. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, don't forget you can subscribe and like the video. And if you want even more, you can go to breakthroughspanish.com where I have lots of free resources to help you speak confident Spanish faster.